What's going on, y'all? So I know it's been a couple of days, but I'm finally going to give you my reaction to Trump's announcement that he's running. Now, if you follow me on social media, you probably already know, but well, actually, I think it's only on one platform, but we're gonna get into it here. But his speech was really good, and the reactions from both the left and the right are pretty intense. There is a lot to talk about, so let's get after it. Now, before we get into it, I just want to remind you that we now have a merch, and it is hosted right now on my wife's store, carrygirl.com, and we're also on Patreon. So if you, I know we're in some tough economic times right now, but if you feel like you would like to support us, we would very much appreciate it. On social media, people, when it comes to Trump's announcement, people are retreating to their corners. Leftists want him arrested.
Now that, now that Trump is a wounded animal, this is the exact time when Merrick Garland should swoop in and indict him.
This is why he's announcing.
Well, that's exactly why he's announcing. And already Merrick Garland is a day late and a dollar short.
Yeah.
He should have done that this morning before this guy announces.
Yeah.
But he didn't do it yet, which makes it now, it looks as though it's political, which is what Merrick Garland was trying to avoid.
Of course it's political, Joyless. I mean, your reasoning for wanting him indicted is political. The lack of self-awareness of these people, it shouldn't be, but it is always astonishing. Anyway, the left wants him arrested. Republican never-Trumpers are vowing to work against him, and hardcore MAGA Trump supporters already have him running, winning the nomination and running with Carrie Lake as his VP. Y'all, the election, the general election in 2024 is 720 some odd days away. Pump the brakes. Just pump the brakes. Now, I've said before in one of my videos here and on other platforms that I'm not all in on Trump. But he governed more conservatively than anyone since Reagan. And so I'm going to vote for him if he's a nominee. There's no question about that. I had someone on one of my socials when I said that I wasn't all in on Trump, that he's our best bet and I need to vote for him regardless. Well, if he's the nominee, obviously I'm going to. It's not even a discussion. But as I said in another video, just let the process play out. Another video on another platform. We need to let the primary process play out and see who challenges him and how hard they push him. I think one of the strengths of conservatives over leftists is the fact that conservatives allow for diversity of thought. They allow for differences of opinion. And I think that a hard-fought primary tempers the candidates and gets them ready for the real fight against the leftists. At the same time, though, that diversity of thought can be a weakness as well. And I say that because on the left, they're almost always in lockstep. I mean, you see it all the time when they have the same catchphrases on every left-wing American Pravda outlet. You hear the same things over and over and over again because they're on message. They're on message, and they've been programmed basically to parrot the same things over and over again, and and they're disciplined in that, and that is one advantage I believe that they have over conservatives in that they're able to get their message across, not just because of their discipline, not just because of their message discipline, but because of the American Pravda as well. That is definitely a help to them. But they're in lockstep, and they stay on message. And with regard to the primary process and seeing it play out, he has some things that he's going to need to explain. He's going to need to explain some of his issues, some of the things that he said with regard to the Second Amendment. He's going to have to explain his COVID response. There are people, he hasn't done it in a while, but for a long time he was very much touting his Operation Warp Speed and getting the vaccines out. Well, we now know that the vaccines are not workable. They have more side effects, and they just don't work. I mean, they don't prevent the disease, and they don't prevent you from spreading the disease. So there's no need for these jabs to go in people's arms, and he used to tout that. And so he's going to have to explain that. And he's also going to have to explain why he signed such massive spending bills, even when he said he wasn't going to do that. So the primary process needs to play out. And like I said, regardless of what happens, if he gets the nomination, he gets my vote. It's not even a question. And despite all the issues that I do have with him, and it's not like I have a whole bunch, but despite the issues that I do have with him and what he did during his first 4 years, what he did during those first 4 years and what we had during his tenure as president is orders of magnitude better than what we're dealing with right now. And I must say that his speech the other night was damn near perfect. It was damn near perfect. And if he sticks with that message and sticks with comparing and contrasting his record with what's going on right now, he's going to be tough to beat. He's going to be tough to beat from primary challenges as well as in the general election if he gets the nomination. And that's including Ron DeSantis, if DeSantis decides that he is going to throw his hat in the ring. But let's take a look at a few clips from his speech the other night, because there's a few things I want to touch on.
Joe Biden has intentionally surrendered our energy independence. There is no longer even a thought of dominance, and we are now begging for energy help from foreign nations, many of whom find us detestable. Our southern border has been erased, and our country is being invaded by millions and millions of unknown people, many of whom are entering for a very bad and sinister reason. And you know what that reason is.
That is perhaps one of, well, we're dealing with a bunch of huge problems right now. But surrendering our energy independence was certainly one of the biggest triggers for the economic decline that we now find ourselves in. That and spending massive amounts of money, which we don't have. And like I said, Trump is going to have to convince a lot of us that he's not going to do that again. And then he mentioned the invasion of the southern border. I do believe that he will fix that. It wasn't perfect while he was in office, but he was opposed at every turn by even people in his own party. But the left, obviously, and the Republican Party has a bunch of leftists in it, just so that we're clear. But they opposed him at every turn. But I think he can get it done the second time around. But here's another clip that I thought was spot on.
Joe Biden has also proven that he is committed to indoctrinating our children, even using the Department of Justice against parents who object. It's a terrible thing. It's so sad what's happening. When I'm in the White House, our schools will cease pushing critical race theory as they were, radical civics, and gender insanity. Or if they do that, they will lose all federal funding, but we'll get them to stop.
Merrick Garland designated parents who did not want their children indoctrinated with trans ideology and or exposed to porn. He he designated them as terrorists. And Eric Swallowswell said in a tweet that it was stupid to suggest that parents should have a say in their children's education. He is giving Mazie Hirono a run for her money as the dumbest person in the Senate. I'm it. Oh, actually, he's a representative, so he probably is the dumbest person in the House of Representatives, and she's the dumbest in the Senate. So I would love to see either one of them on Jeopardy. Anyway, but he said that it was stupid to suggest that parents had a say in their children's education. And Jonathan Turley has a great article on his website, and I'll link to it in the description below, where he dismantles everything about that tweet. He dismantles that assertion, and it's as usual with Jonathan Turley. If you're not familiar with him, he is always, even though I don't always agree with some of his conclusions, his analysis is usually spot on, and usually, if I don't agree, at least makes me think that I might have to reevaluate some of my positions on whatever subject he's talking about where I disagree. I usually end up maybe altering my position a little bit based on that, but he's usually spot on. He's usually spot on. But anyway, I did say earlier in this video that I thought his speech was nearly perfect. I believe I said it was damn near perfect. Here's where I think it goes from an A+ speech to a solid A. I'm not going to say A-. It wasn't that egregious because I mean what he said does have support from some people. But check this out.
And I will ask Congress for legislation ensuring that drug dealers and human traffickers, these are terrible, terrible, horrible people who are responsible for death, carnage, and crime all over our country. Every drug dealer during his or her life on average will kill 500 people with the drugs they sell, not to mention the destruction of families. But we're going to be asking everyone who sells drugs, gets caught selling drugs, to receive the death penalty for their heinous acts, because it's the only way.
Death penalty for drug dealers is going to be a tough sell. Now, at the beginning of that line, he talked about human traffickers as well as drug dealers. Now, if he's talking about the death penalty for human traffickers and child sex traffickers and things like that, that's going to be a much easier sell. But drug dealers, that's going to be tough. And it'll probably be easier for drug traffickers as well. Drug traffickers, human traffickers, probably be an easier sell. But I still really don't see it happening, especially for drug dealers. Human traffickers is a whole other thing. And like I said, he kind of lumped them together and then didn't really clarify which one, or if he was talking about both. But with regard to the death penalty for drug dealers and drug traffickers, if you can't prove that the drugs that the dealer or trafficker sold has a direct line to the death of an individual, imposing a death penalty on them is going to be really tough. I'm not saying not to pursue it. I'm not saying that it should just be something to move the campaign along and help them get support. If he says it, and he really believes it, then he should go for it. And if it passes, especially for human traffickers, I will support it wholeheartedly. And if it passes for drug dealers, I'll support that too. I know that's probably not a terribly popular stance, especially among the more left-leaning Republicans, but why not? Why not? He's right. They do cause death and destruction, and they should pay for that. That said, it might turn off, like I said, some of our more left-leaning Republicans, and definitely some of our more libertarian-leaning conservatives. They're going to have a hard time with that, because they, for the most part, are all for people putting whatever they want in their bodies, and it shouldn't even be illegal. So we'll see how that goes. And he went on in that clip to talk about a meeting he had with Xi Jinping, and told him that drug dealers in China are executed by way of a very a quick trial. And as appealing as that may sound to some, we should be careful about trying to emulate some of China's policies, because they are notorious violators of human rights. And if it's happening in China, then we should, like I said earlier in this show, pump the brakes and really look at what we're dealing with here, especially as it relates to criminal justice. I'm just saying. Anyway, y'all, that's all I got for right now. Please let me know what you think in the comments. I would love to hear from you. And please like and share this video and subscribe to the channel. And remember, it is crucial to keep your head on a swivel, to keep you, your family, your loved ones, your friends, your community safe. Do that, and we'll see you next time right here on the Liberty Cast.